Hi internet friends, or I guess I should say future internet friends since this is my first video. I had really great intentions of my first video being some sort of introduction, who am I, what's this channel going to be, but I just kept not doing it, partially because I'm lazy and partially because I wasn't exactly sure what I want this channel to be, and I'm still not entirely sure. But when I was sitting down to close out my November budget and start my December budget, I decided I might as well sit down and do a video. So hopefully my next video will be that intro. And this will just break the dam of procrastination. But what you need to know for now, I guess, is that my name's Lydia and I like to budget. So I am doing my budget a little bit late. It's December 2nd. Normally I try to reconcile at the end of the month and not the beginning of the next month. But it is what it is. So let's just jump over to my budget. This is my budget spreadsheet. I don't feel like we need to go too in detail about the spreadsheet itself. Let's just focus on the budget today. Although if anybody's interested, I can definitely do some sort of budget spreadsheet overview in the future. But let's try to keep the video a reasonable length for my first video. So to start out, we see that this is my November budget. In my income section, you'll see I have two columns. I have last month, and this is the money I can spend now because I budget off of what I earned the previous month for the most part. And I do also keep track of what I've earned this month so that I have a rough idea of how much I'll have to spend next month. So last month I earned $2,157.91, which is actually a little bit low, and that's because I was on furlough for 2 weeks in October and I didn't get paid. So in my notes section, the notes section just helps future Lydia understand why the budget looks different. So October furlough reflected in paycheck. Okay. So I count my paycheck for the previous month, but my interest and any surprise money I do count during the month that I got it, mostly just because I immediately put it into a savings account. And so with accounting, it's easy. For my accounting, not saying this is the right way to do accounting, because it probably is not the right way to do accounting. It's just what works better in my brain. And then I also have a category called Save For It, which is basically I transferred money out of one of my savings accounts to pay for something expensive. And I just don't like seeing that I was $1,000 in the hole one month. So instead I kind of count it as income. Next, I have my sanity checks, which I won't go to in detail, but this section is basically just so that I don't have to do math at the end of the month and I know how much money I had left over. So this is my expenses section of the spreadsheet. I divide this up into three large categories. I have fixed essentials, which are things that I consider fairly essential that I pay the same amount or roughly the same amount every month. I have a rolling essentials, which is why I don't exactly zero-based budget. For me, it makes more sense for things that I spend different amounts on every month to just budget the same amount every month and then roll the balance over month to month. So sometimes I'm a little bit over or sometimes a little bit under, but so long as the total of my rolling expenses is in the positive, I don't worry about it too much because generally it works itself out. And if it isn't working itself out, then I just adjust the monthly budget for it. And then I have luxuries, which are things that I really don't need to spend money on, but I like to. So first up in my fixed essentials is the tithing that I pay to my church. And you'll notice I don't show my numbers for that. I feel like donations and things like that are pretty personal. So for rent, I pay $625 a month. I live in a 2-bedroom, 1-bath apartment by myself. So some people might be thinking, wow, that's really cheap rent. And some people may be thinking, oh, that's really expensive rent. So just for context, I live in a small city in the Midwest. For food, I budgeted this month $200, which is actually a little bit more than I normally budget for food. So I budgeted a bit extra because Thanksgiving, it's a holiday about eating. But then I ended up spending even more. I spent $235.48 on food, which was actually a fair amount more than I was planning on spending, and that's partially because of Thanksgiving, but it's mostly because I was running out of food near the end of the month, and rather than just buying what I needed to get through the month and with a positive number, I figured I might as well just buy enough groceries to get through a couple of weeks like I normally do. Um, and I have the money in the bank, so it just made more sense to do it that way. I should also mention that my food budget includes both groceries and eating out. I found that for me, it makes the most sense to have fairly broad budget categories, and then I keep track of the more nitpicky details like eating out versus groceries elsewhere in my budget spreadsheet. It just doesn't show up on my monthly overview page. Next is internet, and I spend $40 on my internet every month. So next up is my rolling essentials. For utilities, I budget $60 a month. That's actually up. I was doing $55 a month, but since I've been working from home a lot, my utilities have gone up. So I was $17.38 over not last month. That was a build up from several months, which is why I raised what I was spending on utilities. This month, I actually only spent $48.35. So I'm back down to $5.73. And once I'm back in the black on my utilities, I'm going to go through and recrunch the average I spend on utilities and see what I actually should be budgeting every month. For my cell phone, I pay this every year, which is why it's in my rolling essentials. So every month I put aside $21, and then when I'm paying for the next year of my cell phone bill, it will be there. Transportation is basically anything that has to do with my car. So gas, insurance, future repairs, things like that. I had about $76 in that fund, and this month I only spent about $77, so $76.98. That's my car insurance. And I didn't have to fill up on gas because I haven't been going very many places. So I have about $144 in that fund right now. And that'll be nice next time I need an oil change or something. Next is a personal care. This is like hygiene items, makeup, skincare, things like that. I had about $27 left over, and then I spent $62.53 this month. So I have $24.59 in that fund. And then household, things like paper towels, toilet paper, sometimes laundry. Laundry also sometimes comes out of my personal care budget. It just depends on where I have the money. So this past month, my laundry expenses came out of personal care because I was over by 18 cents last month. And then this month I spent $20.10, so I'm still over 28 cents. I don't know how I live with myself. But I don't think I can buy any more pots and pans. Oh well. The next section in my rolling essentials are luxury. So entertainment. I budget about $21 every month. Sometimes this changes, but I had $20.04 left over. I spent $12.99 on Netflix. That bill's going to be going up. Yay. It's going up $1. I'm looking forward to it. And now I have $28.05, so I think I can get around to buying Taylor Swift's new album if I want to. I haven't yet, but it's there if I want to. Next, I do budget money for gifts and donations every month. But again, this is something that's blocked out. So this is if I buy my mom a birthday present, or if I want to donate to the food bank, or to somebody's medical expenses GoFundMe. I do have a separate budget for that. With Mad Money, this is kind of my miscellaneous fund and also just my fun money fund. So this is one area where I cut quite a bit. So normally I budget about $250 a month. This month I only budgeted $175. So I only spent $45.85 on random stuff that I wanted this month. And I have $129.15 left over. And I'll show you what I do with that in a few minutes. So next I have savings goals and sinking funds. This is just where I save for my future goals. So in this category I have future home. This is another place where I had to cut this month because I was on furlough, so I only put aside $120 for that. Then I actually put aside $126.98 because I have my interest for my high yield savings account roll over into my future home. So I don't ever budget for it because I'm never quite sure exactly how much interest I'm going to earn, but that's how much I actually spent. And I now have $9,640.24 toward my future home in my savings account because I also have savings for future home. In investments because I don't know when I'm going to buy a future home. I just know that I would like to someday. Next, I have new car, which is another place where I cut. I bought my car about 10 years ago, 9 years ago, something like that. And it was a couple years old when I bought it. So I don't think I have to go out and buy a new car tomorrow. I haven't had any problems with my car, but some future day I will need to buy a new car. It's actually a lower balance than it was because I had to get some body work done on my car. But now I have $1,203.56. I have a rough goal of about $20,000 for a new car, but I know that I could buy a reasonable car for much less than that. So that's just my goal about, we'll see. When I get to that amount, I'll feel good about buying a new car, but I may have to buy a new car before I get to that. My emergency fund is already funded. I have $15,000 set aside. That's easily accessible for me. That's actually about a year of living expenses if I cut down a lot of this stuff that I don't need. I also have a Life Happens fund, which Michelle Singletary is a personal finance budgeting columnist, and she likes the idea of having a separate emergency fund for emergencies and then Life Happen funds for expected emergencies, and I kind of like that. Right now I have $1,636.76. Generally I have $2,000 in there, and at some point I should build it back up. Because I do have such a robust emergency fund, I'm not feeling like I need to do it in a hurry. Just a few months ago I dipped into it. Then I have an HSA through my work, so health savings account. When I signed up, I wasn't sure how much money I wanted to have pulled from my paycheck, so I'm actually setting aside extra money. And this is how much I plan to do this year, outside of what I already had pulled out of my account, of my paycheck automatically. I also have a Roth IRA, which right now doesn't have a ton of money in it, because I've been focusing on putting retirement in through my workplace retirement. And then gifts and donations and Mad Money. And I have bank accounts, separate bank accounts from multiple years ago, so 5 or 6 or 10 years ago or something, I set them up. And since then, I don't really need them, but they do have higher interest than my just checking account, so I do move money into these savings account every month. So gifts and donations, I have whited out, so you don't know exactly how much I have in there. But for Mad Money, right now I have about $1,200 that I can spend on stuff. I'm saving up for a new computer. So at the end of every month, this calculation lets me know how much money I have to actually move over to various savings accounts. So this is what I under budgeted, taking into account my rolling expenses and overages and my fixed expenses and things like that. So this month I have $109.15 I can reallocate to some sort of savings goal. This month I think I'm going to put it into Mad Money. So some months I might also put it into a future home. So let's see. So what I'm going to do is if I go into my budget spreadsheet, I can say that it's actually the 2nd of December, but this is for my November budget. So I'm saying that I did it in November. Now when I go back to my budget, you'll see I have no money to put into savings. Okay, so going into December, now that I've closed out my November budget, just copy my sheet. Or copy, I make a copy. Then I rename it to December. Oops. Get rid of that. Now in my December budget, I change these dates to reflect the month of December. And last month was November 2020. You can delete my note. Now you can see that I have a bit more money to play with than I did last month, and I haven't gotten a paycheck yet, so I don't have any money for next month yet. Then for rent, stays the same. Food, I'm going to go back to my normal $180. Internet stays the same. Utilities, I'll leave the same. Cell phone, I'll leave the same. Transportation, I'll leave the same. Personal care remains the same. Put my Mad Money budget back to normal. At your home, I've been saving about $515 every month. You'll notice I actually have already paid that. It auto pays every month, and so before I sat down and recorded this video, I had already added that to my transactions. And then I generally put about $190 towards a new car. The HSA, I need $683.50 to max out for the year, so I'm just going to do that. Because of that, you'll see I've been budgeted quite a bit more than I was paid. So I'm going to have to go through and move some money around for my savings accounts. But I guess we'll see what I did at the end of the month. So that's the basics of my budget. And I guess if you tune in at the end of the month, you can see how I actually spend my money, and if I manage to spend less on groceries and if my utilities ever recover. So thanks for watching, if anybody watched, and hopefully I'll record another video someday.